All eyes in New York as President Cyril Ramaphosa will be addressing the United Nations General Assembly today. Now, the president and other heads of state and government are expected to focus on the current political security challenges as well as the sustainable development goals. For more on this, now we welcome in studio SABC International News editor Sophie Mokoena. Sophie, thank you so much for your time. Of course, a big day for South Africa. It has actually been a very busy week, I must say, for President Cyril Ramaphosa. Now, before we get to today's business, let's look at what happened yesterday. The president met Elon Musk and, of course, met other important business figures in the United States. Just talk to us about what could have been on that agenda, particularly as we start looking at US billionaire Elon Musk.
Onati, you will recall that when President Ramaphosa was campaigning just before elections, he had to go and address the think tank of SADC. These are influential people, academic and also from business. And he hinted at that time that he is talking to a billionaire from America or in America. And immediately I thought about Elon Musk, and indeed it was last week when he was talking to the editors in the country, he again spoke about that, and therefore this was a long-standing appointment with Elon Musk. As you know that he wants to bring a satellite here in South Africa. There were issues according to the reports. But secondly, you know that he is involved in the electric cars and the batteries. And this is something that is key at this moment as the world is changing. Something that people believe that the African continent has got all the resources that are needed when the globe is venturing into a new industrialization. We know that the first industrial revolution, they relied on Africa in terms of the mineral resources such as your platinum, your gold, and all of that. Again, with the current movement to clean energy, most of the resources to build such technology are found on the continent, and Elon Musk has led the way with the electric car. And I think those are some of the issues that the president and Elon Musk spoke about. So tomorrow, Sharon Bryce-Pease will be speaking to the president, and we'll get a better sense of what they were talking about. But I think it had to do with investment. He also visited the stock exchange, as you pointed out, where he did engage many industrialized countries in terms of those countries that their business people have invested in the stock exchange in the United States of America, in New York. And he was kind of communicating to them where South Africa is at this moment. As you know, that just before elections, there were fears that things will not go well, and therefore investors were skeptical in terms of what was happening in South Africa. But now, with elections off the way, there's interest in investing in South Africa.
And I mean, Sophie, you spoke about the New York Stock Exchange. So, of course, it was a very busy day in as far as foreign direct investment is concerned. Let's now turn our focus in terms of what we can then expect today from President Cyril Ramaphosa.
Today, the president will address the General Assembly. We know that the president of the General Assembly will start the deliberations, and of course, the Secretary General of the United Nations will also give a strong message and also set a tone in terms of what the discussions should focus on. And we know that the President of the United States of America, Joe Biden, who is leaving office next year, will also deliver his last speech at the UN. You have the President of Brazil, Lula, who is currently the chair of the G20, who is also going to speak. When you look at the SADC region, you have President Nyusi of Mozambique, who will also be delivering his last speech as the president of Mozambique. As you know, that Mozambique will be going to elections in a few weeks from now. And of course, the president, and I think the president is also going to focus on the current global issues. Then you'll have other countries coming, I think, on Wednesday. And also on Wednesday, the last engagement of the president, the big one, will be him participating on the margins of the General Assembly at the G20 meeting. As you know, that the current chair is Brazil. Brazil will hand over to South Africa. South Africa will hand over to the United States of America, and Antonio Guterres will also address the G20 meeting on the margins of the General Assembly.
Now, Sophie, of course, very quickly before I let you go, Shaun Braspies, as you've said, our correspondent, will also just give us a sense of what to expect then when the UNGA gets underway. And of course, we will be taking it live as soon as President Cyril Ramaphosa makes that arrest. I want to just pick your brain on, some of the assertions then that President Cyril Ramaphosa made yesterday to the business sector of the US, talking specifically about the government of national unity. How important do you think that was, particularly as you look at, just some of the things that are currently before South Africa, including AGOA, etc.?
I think this was a moment for him to explain how South Africa arrived at this situation in terms of the outcome of the elections. And secondly, in terms of the formation of this government. And I think also allaying fears of those who are questioning the fact that will this be sustainable? Is this holding? And I think the president was doing just that, and he will continue to do that. I think even when he's addressing the General Assembly, he will use the example of South Africa, how South Africa is able to resolve any challenges, including the electoral outcome, rather than descending into chaos and violence and disputing results. This is how South Africa handled its challenges. And this dates back to Nelson Mandela, Thabo Mbeki, and Jacob Zuma, in terms of working with those you don't necessarily agree with. And that is a good example globally in terms of how countries can handle their internal challenges, but also country-to-country challenges. As we see the situation in Ukraine, between Russia and Ukraine, and the situation in the Middle East between Palestine, Israel, now Lebanon, Hezbollah, and the entire region having this challenge of security.
All right, SABC International News Editor Sophie Mokoena there for us, of course, ahead of the 79th session of the UNGA. We will be taking you live to that proceeding as soon as it begins. And of course, President Cyril Ramaphosa will be making his address.